Up until last year, Marvel TV was not canon to Marvel Studios. And of course, Marvel Entertainment's productions were largely seen as inferior during their entire run. Things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, Iron Fist, Runaways, Cloak and Dagger were not going to be brought into the main canon. But now they of course all are. But what if, right from the start, Marvel Studios and Marvel Entertainment work together? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So in this hypothetical what-if scenario, we are looking at Marvel Studios and Marvel Entertainment working together like they did in the initial 3 to 4 years when the MCU started. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, back in 2008, when Marvel Studios formed and released Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk with the partnership of Universal, Marvel Studios was just a brand that was connected to Marvel Entertainment. Now, Marvel Entertainment dealt with everything Marvel, more or less. Marvel Comics, the Marvel IP, and Marvel Studios was a sub-studio that went out and got their own funding to make the first phase of films. Now, where things start to fall apart is right around the release of The Avengers. Now, when it comes to branding recognition, I do got to mention that Marvel Entertainment is typically associated with the logo that popped up in front of Marvel films that say in association with Marvel. Again, that's the Marvel Entertainment side of things, and they were always responsible for being co-producers with things like X-Men's Gifted TV series or Legion, and every other project that was out there. Now, the initial partnership was pretty decent, and right off the bat in the success of The Avengers, we know that Disney, ABC, and Marvel Studios all greenlit Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That being a highly successful show, Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, and Disney, with President Bob Iger, would then reveal at a press conference in New York City that the Defenders were coming, and that these characters, which would be produced by ABC and Marvel Entertainment under Disney, would be debuting on Netflix within a couple of years. And he stated in that press release that these characters are going to be appearing in live action films in the future. Now, this is where things start to fall apart for Marvel Entertainment and Marvel Studios relations. So around 2012 to early 2013, Marvel Studios and Marvel Entertainment start butting heads, specifically the people over at Marvel Entertainment, which was based out of New York, versus Marvel Studios, based out of California. Marvel Entertainment decided to take the characters that they had and lock them up in exclusivity contracts and embargo them away from Marvel Studios. And again, these two studios were operating independently under a Disney wing. This caused head of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, around the release of Age of Ultron, to threaten to leave the company. And of course, everything then would start to shift, and by 2018, everything under Marvel Entertainment was folded into Marvel Studios. And of course, they were still going to treat some of the projects they had from Marvel's Netflix and TV side as non-canon, which of course changed in the last couple of years. But for this instance, we are going all the way back to 2012, 2013. What if that statement that Bob Iger, president of Disney, made ended up being true? And what if there weren't egos at play? And what if everybody got along? So what we're looking at is a rollout of content that's pretty much the same. So for example, every season of Netflix's Daredevil comes out the way it's supposed to. Jessica Jones, everything. But there is a major change due to the fact that Marvel Entertainment was operating with cheap costs, and their people were trying to cut costs every single way that they could. Many of the shows and aspects of their shows ended up being cheap. The difference here would be, working with Marvel Studios, they would want the Marvel quality, or at least it to be on par with something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Runaways, which had higher budgets. So in essence, what we end up getting is higher quality content and them acknowledging one another. So, for example, when you get to Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, we know that the Russo brothers back in the day discussed this approach. And they said that they were told, you pretty much can't touch the TV side of things because it's not a factor. We don't really have any say in that. And also, we know that when Marvel Entertainment locked away those rights, there was a grace period where those characters could not be used anywhere at all. So Marvel Studios was even barred from mentioning them, which is why there was never an intended crossover. So if we would have got everything joined together, you would have seen a character like Daredevil guaranteed appear in Avengers Infinity War and or Avengers Endgame. It would have made sense as he was the most popular. But also, think about Marvel Studios having input into those shows and their productions. We could have gotten direct references, crossovers, and even cameos early on. For example, Spider-Man Homecoming taking place in New York. It would have been very easy and very likely that they could have worked Daredevil in there, which would have paid back to Daredevil much earlier than Spider-Man No Way Home. A character like Iron Fist, which Marvel Studios had plans for and wanted to produce a film on, would have actually mattered and been taken care of by people that care about the character and not by the people that just got the character and locked him away. Another prime example being is the use of the Inhumans. Marvel Entertainment stole that after the film announcement, and Marvel Studios was more or less stuck not being able to produce that film, despite them already writing in the Inhumans in terms of how they interconnect to Infinity War and Endgame. So that also would have been a factor. And then, of course, you got to look at some of the other characters. Marvel TV and Marvel Entertainment were trying to lock away characters like Blade and Moon Knight and Ghost Rider, which they succeeded with Ghost Rider. Those characters, with the partnership of Marvel Studios, could have actually mattered and appeared much earlier, as Moon Knight was a character that was being discussed by Marvel Studios all the way back in 2010. And there's even interviews of them talking about continuing to do one-shots and possibly feature Moon Knight in one of those to sort of test the waters. But again, due to Marvel Entertainment's insistence and them producing the one-shots, largely that all fell apart. So a streamlined future that was far more successful and everything integrated would have definitely benefited everybody. But unfortunately, that's not the timeline we live in, and everything was disconnected, and the TV stuff was not canon up until a year and a half ago, where they decided they had to make it canon. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.